area by this afternoon, but the wind is still howling outside, even though we're not really getting the hurricane force winds we anticipated. They're more tropical storm force.
So you're hearing the winds. Tropical storm force winds are still a great danger, and that's why it's important that you get the message out, because a lot of folks, this has been a slow-moving storm. A lot of folks, maybe wanting to head back outside if they've heard that the worst of it is past. What's your message to folks right now?
Well, I mean, for our residents, I mean, we're in the process right now of getting our crews out to assess damages. But I can tell you this is pretty much a wind and rain event, and I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of flooding out of it in areas. I think it's just going to be a lot of tree and structural damage, like to, mobile homes and manufactured homes. And it's probably going to just be, a little low-level, low-lying area flooding, flood-prone area flooding. But I don't think it did not become the major event that we were prepared for.
Well, you were prepared for it. That in and of itself is a good thing, and a lot of people did leave the coast, which is also a good thing. Tell me about the calls that have been coming in and were coming in overnight and this morning, particularly as this storm was bearing down and the worst of it was or still is over you.
Well, one of the anomalies we have here is we do have the barrier islands, so, everyone, we issued a mandatory evacuation on Wednesday effective at 3 o'clock for everyone living on the barrier island. And unfortunately, we got some hurricane complacency that's involved, but for those who do leave the barrier island, they want to know, A, if I work on the mainland and I have to evacuate, will I be able to get over the causeway to my home? And then others who live on the barrier island want to know, well, when will you close the causeway? Well, we don't close the causeways until after a storm, just to assess whether there's been any damage to the causeways and would be unsafe for people to return home. So just inundated for probably the last 72 hours with questions on social media from people, when did the causeways close? And we just, we can't repeat it enough, because each person that gets on a social media site, it's an individual thing. They don't look at what other people have asked about or anything. They just want to know, what can you tell me about my situation? So I've answered a lot of questions in the last 2 or 3 days about the closing of the causeways. But as soon as the storm passed through Brevard County this morning, I started getting questions, when can we go back across the causeway? So, so it starts over again, just on a different process.
Yeah. Just hold your horses, people.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Our first responders, our emergency crews back out, our emergency crews headed out now. One of our reporter on the ground there said she did hear sirens that she thought were in the distance. So are they out assessing the situation now?
Yeah, as soon as we have a long county, 72 miles long. Yeah. So we kind of broke it up in quadrants, the south part of the county, central part, and northern part, because this storm moved through at 13 miles an hour, and when you've got a 72-mile long county, it's going to be a long, drawn-out ordeal. But as soon as that storm system moved into the central part of the county this morning, we started sending out crews to assess the damages. So, and then at probably here in about another 30 minutes, we're going to start sending crews out into the central area. And then this afternoon, probably around 2 o'clock, we'll get crews out in the northern part of the area. But again, I think most of those damages we're going to see, which I can see right now out in our parking lot, are tree limbs and, maybe some shingles and things like that.
Quickly, we're going to let you go because we need to let you get back to work right now. But any reports of injuries of any kind in your county?
No reports of injuries. We've got about 160,000 people, though, in our county right now that are without power. So Florida Power and Light is working diligently to restore that power. Even in the heat of the storm, they were still out putting people's power back on. I think the last count I saw was 13,000 people who had at one point been without power have power now that didn't have it before. So.
All right, Don Walker, Brevard County Emergency Management, thanks so much for being with us. We wish you luck in the coming hours as you assess the damage in your county, which hopefully, as you say, isn't as bad as it could have been, largely, I think, because of the preparation of emergency officials like you.
Absolutely right. So that's Brevard County. The storm is moving north. The latest track, as we got an update at the top of the hour, continuing to get updates. The western eye wall is about 95 miles southeast of Jacksonville, Florida. Huge concern there because of just how Jacksonville is made up of low-lying area. Storm surge is the biggest threat right now. That's what they're keeping an eye on in this slow-moving storm. Hurricane Matthew, we're keeping an eye on it. Our breaking news coverage continues after this.
Here's the plan. You want a career and a family, but most of the time you feel like you're trying to wrangle a hurricane. Everything is hectic, and when the boys aren't eating, they're fighting, and the rest of the time, they're asleep.